it's just an example. Purdue losing to Fresno State is okay. We still win the Big Ten West. But me,
Billy Napier gets fired. I'm just kidding.
hey, really the best time of the year. I will be seated watching Red Zone for 7 hours on Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a new episode of Backyard Banter. Johnny, James, Tanner. We're back 2 times a week. It feels good. Do you know why it feels good, everybody? Because we are predicting college football games. That is just the best. We will be previewing and predicting the biggest games coming up this weekend. There's really 4 marquee ones when you look at it. You know, you got Florida, Miami, Georgia, Clemson, LSU, USC, and then you have kind of the other ones, obviously A&M, Notre Dame. And then you have the other ones sprinkled in, like Colorado, North Dakota State. There's some fun games like that in there as well. So we're going to get right into it, and I'm going to pass it over to Tanner because last year we did a college football prediction thing on ESPN. Tanner, as I ramble, you can pull it up. College football prediction thing on ESPN, and we finished. What was our record like? It was like over 60%, like almost 70% completed. Our picks were correct. So we're gonna do that this year every week.
What a banger of a first game, by the way.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And then there's going to be times where games that we want to talk about aren't on here. So we're just going to talk about those as well, especially when we get into some of the huge matchups coming in. But we're just going to go right off the top, guys. Penn State, West Virginia. Who do you guys got?
I'm going to go with Penn State. Pretty straightforward here for me. Not expecting a whole lot out of West Virginia this season. I do think this is going to be a relatively competitive game. I don't think it's going to be a 20, 30-point win for Penn State, but I definitely see the Nittany Lions pulling this one off.
So I just told these boys off camera that I was not really prepared for this podcast, work, whatever. It just came quick, right? There was 2 games I was prepared for, and it was this one and the Notre Dame game. I'm going to tell you I'm going to pick the Mountaineers here, okay? I like the spread better of +8, okay? But because it's pick 'em, we're going to just pick a money line. Garrett Green is a name that I think we're going to talk about for the rest of the season after this game. Okay. I think he's a hell of a quarterback. I think it's a tough place to play. I think it's week 1. I think Penn State, I said it multiple times, I think they're a little fraudulent. So I'm gonna take the Mountaineers. I get it, it's a tough take. I like the spread, but because it's pick 'em, I'm gonna go with them anyway. Watch out for Garrett Green to make a name for himself this weekend.
I love that, James. We're 2 minutes in the pod already, just right off the rip. It's been fire. I love that. I'm gonna go with Penn State, but I do agree with you, James, in the fact that it's gonna be a close game. Penn State has a new offense coordinator, and we saw Drew Aller. Sometimes watching him play quarterback was like nails on a chalkboard, and I do think that he's gonna be significantly better this year. But I think any quarterback coming into a new system, especially going on the road, and there's a quarterback like that we'll talk about later, that is gonna have a rough time, at least a rough first half, to keep this game semi-competitive. So give me Penn State.
I like it, and I think Nick Singleton of Penn State is actually set to have a pretty big season.
They got 2 backs.
Miles Sanders type season out of Nick Singleton. I'm excited to watch.
I love that. They got 2 backs. They got the Allen kid too, and last name's Allen. They got 2 backs, but I also like James's pick. I like you coming. I did not know that was West Virginia quarterback's name. I love that.
Yeah,
but
he's a stud. He's like an 88 overall in the game.
Look at that. Anyway, how about this non-con? I saw this the other day on Twitter because I believe Vanderbilt is +13.5, the spread. And,
shout out to Virginia Tech going to get an SEC opponent. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Might as well be playing a group of 5 opponent.
Yeah.
But Virginia Tech goes to Vandy. I mean, guys, some people are expecting big stuff at Virginia Tech this year. Who do you guys got?
Virginia Tech, Vandy has half a stadium and half a division.
I'm excited to see how much it's improved.
Me as well, but Virginia Tech all day.
Yeah, there's never going to be a sport besides baseball where I pick Vandy. So yeah, give me Virginia Tech as well.
I will say that a few good basketball teams a few years back.
Yeah, but their benches on the end line.
Yeah, that freaks me out. I agree with you. That freaks me out.
Everything about Vanderbilt makes no sense until they wear the camo baseball jerseys. Yeah. Then it's like, okay, you're cool.
Florida loses at Vandy every year, but
yeah.
I will say I do think Vandy covers the 13.5. I just think it's a kind of a sleepy first game for Virginia Tech. I mean, that's a weird place to go play an opener. I'm not gonna lie, weird place, but I do think Virginia Tech takes care of business. A lot of ACC, SEC. And
Yeah.
our next matchup, which I think is going to be a really underrated matchup. Obviously, Georgia's best team in the country. Probably they've been the best program over the last 4 years. And Clemson, who the 4 years before that, you could argue was the best program in the country. So who do you guys got in this one?
I'm going to take Georgia, but I'm really, really intrigued to see how the trenches match up in this one, because we all know what Carson Beck is. He's an unbelievable quarterback, the best quarterback in the country, potentially, maybe the number one quarterback in the draft. Who knows? But the problem with Georgia this year is their defensive line. I think Johnny might have mentioned their defensive line not as good as we're used to seeing at Georgia in past years. So if that's the case, I'm going to really be looking at Clemson. How can Clemson run the ball against Georgia? Can Clemson give time for Cade Klubnik? Can Clemson move the ball downfield? Because I think the last time they played a couple years ago, Georgia absolutely dominated in this game. And I would like this to at least be a watchable game. I don't want it to be 20, 30-point game. I am picking Georgia, however, and I do think Clemson keeps it close. I think this could be a very sneaky good game in that early window Saturday.
Yeah. I got Georgia by 20. Not going to sugarcoat it. I think Clemson's a team that I want to be good. Like the days where Clemson was good and Notre Dame had them on the schedule in back-to-back years, it was like, wow, right? Because Clemson
Fun
was
game.
literally, they were literally like fighting for a national champion, right? And this whole idea of the transfer portal, we've talked about it on this podcast all the time with Clemson not really buying into that. I'm not saying it's going to be their issue, but I think Georgia's just unreal. I think they're the best team in the country, and I think Georgia wins this game at home by 20.
Well, it's actually, again,
Sorry, neutral site, but
don't even get me started, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Right.
exactly. So it's
These
in
neutral site games are freaking ridiculous. Shout out to Notre Dame for going to A&M and Miami going to UF. Like this is ridiculous. And I understand this is more of a coincidence because it's the Chick-fil-A kickoff. Like they have it every year. But God, I mean, we're gonna get it with the playoff, hopefully the 12th team. But we got it. I'm also gonna pick Georgia. Clemson's defensive line though is really good. This might be I won't say the best, but probably one of the best defense lines that Georgia will face all year. The problem is Georgia's offensive line is equally as dominant. I think they'll be able to run the ball at will with ETN and the other staple backs that they got there. But I do think there is value with Clemson on their money line just because that's such a high number, like plus 450.
Yeah.
That is some value. I don't even think Georgia Tech was that high. I think they're right around that, just to kind of put it in perspective. But Clemson has two receivers, freshman receivers that are really good. Look out for them. Phil Mafa's back, their running back. He's really good last year in spurts. But Cade Klubnik away from Death Valley last year in Clemson had a negative touchdown to interception ratio. And second year under Garrett Riley, second year in the system, maybe that helps, but I don't think it helps in game one. I also got Georgia, and we'll move on to the next game. Oklahoma State, South Dakota State. Oklahoma State's average offense line is like 29 years old, so I would go with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oklahoma State as well. I think this is actually supposed to be a relatively close game. The line is Oklahoma State minus 9.5 last I looked. South Dakota State's going to be gritty. They're one of the best FCS teams in the country. They almost went in and beat Iowa a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember when South Dakota State had a 5-0 lead over Iowa in the fourth quarter, but they did almost go into Kinnick Stadium and pull it off. I think Oklahoma State a little bit better, a little bit different animal than Iowa, just because Ollie Gordon is probably the best running back in the country. That offensive line's got experience. Alan Bowman's got experience. They got a good receiver. The defense for Oklahoma State is a huge question mark this year. They lost a lot on it. It wasn't a defense that was great by any means last year. So I do think South Dakota State might be able to move the ball, put up some points, but I'm taking the Cowboys to win at home.
Yeah, I like the Cowboys too. Enough said. Tanner got it right on the head. Shout out to South Dakota State for getting this game, though. I mean, they're a team in the FCS that is competitive every year and very good every year, and they've made themselves a household name when you talk about FCS football, if you do talk about that at home. But yeah, so shout out to them for going and scheduling a tough game. So
it's very true. So we got Miami, Ohio against Northwestern. I'm never going to pick a team that plays on a practice field, so give me Miami, Ohio.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
No way we're actually picking Miami of Ohio in this game.
Northwestern's going to have 1,000 fans there.
That's okay. If someone else is going to pick
Big Ten
Miami,
versus
Ohio,
the MAC.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Northwestern. Someone else can pick because Northwestern can't be as bad as they were 2 years ago, and they're quietly kind of improving a little bit. And I do agree with James. Like, it's still the MAC versus Big Ten capacity.
And a bad MAC team, mind you. I know MACtion. Miami of Ohio is not very good.
This isn't
Okay.
the Big Ben, Miami, Ohio.
No, it's not. Yeah, we're gonna go with the Wildcats here. We got it.
Okay, I'm fine with that, but I will personally pick Miami. I
That's fine.
will be fading
That's fine.
Northwestern the whole entire
That's
season.
fine.
Can't
Well,
believe they're
this Miami game is somehow more relevant, as you could say. Miami at UF. I'll let you guys give your picks first for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start us off here. I think Florida's a talented football team. I know they don't have a number to their name preseason. I know they have a tough schedule. I know the Hurricanes got Cam Ward. They have a bunch of other studs. They kind of underperformed a year ago, and you kind of get the sense that the Canes are going to be locked in this year. Talented roster, really hit the portal hard, kind of a bounce back season incoming. But I don't see them coming out of the swamp alive after Saturday. I think Florida is going to be rocking. The swamp's going to be rocking. It's one of the toughest places in the country to play. I love when Florida plays big games at home. I'm always tuned in. Even before I knew you, Johnny, I was always tuned in, and I'm going to rock with the Gators here at home. I love the Gators at home in the swamp.
I will, Johnny and I think Johnny mentioned it last time on the pod. We have a little bit of a side friendly wager here that we made this summer about Florida under over. And here's the thing: if they win this game, I think they cruise on the over here, and that's the concern for
If
me.
they win this game, they get the over before they play Georgia.
Most likely, right? Most likely, because as Tanner said, as Johnny said before, and I will say it, it is a very talented team, and a team like Florida is always going to have dudes. Like it's Florida. It's just it is what it is. But I think Miami had so many just boneheaded mistakes last season and just not great football played, and they were still a salvageable team. I think they fix all that. I think they tighten it all up. And I'm sorry, Johnny, but give me
Hey,
Miami.
James, that's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way. Shout out to
That's
all
okay.
my dad's frat
Hey,
brothers. Shout out to all the Pikes at UF. We got a lot of new
that's fine.
subscribers. A
That's
lot
fine.
of them were them coming over to support. That's
It's
some very
still love. It's still
no, no,
love.
no. No, I'm just giving them a shout out because they had a lot of very kind words about the
Mm.
podcast. But yeah. So first thing I'm going to address is Florida's preseason ranking. Um, I think preseason ranking is stupid altogether because I don't know what you're ranking. You haven't seen anyone play, but I think people rank Florida based on their schedule, their projection schedule, because Florida talent-wise is a top 25 team in the country. If you just look at their roster like on paper. Just like I think Miami's better than the 19th best team in the country. I think Miami's more top 12. And then, I mean, you get to this game. What can't you say? It's a helmet game, first of all. Since 1980, you could argue you can't argue. It's just a fact. These are two of the top 10 programs in the country since 1980 on. And you go on, they've played every year for a long time. They haven't played in a while. Florida won the last one in Camping World Stadium, which was a weird game. And
Kadarius Toney.
yeah, the Kadarius Toney after Tommy Townsend faked a punt
R.I.P.
on the fourth and
R.I.P.
three. Yeah, he just got cut. But look, it's been said all year. The schedule is rough. Everything about the schedule, and I'm personally sick of that. You're the University of Florida. People have to play you. And 24/7 came out with their talent roster. Who's the most talented team in the country? Florida on paper is the 12th most talented roster in the country. You have 49 4 stars. You have 6 5 stars. There's no more excuses. I love Billy Napier. I'm a Billy Napier fan, and I love his message. He preaches team. He preaches togetherness. He preaches unity. Well, it's on him now if they don't win. They had too many coaching lapses last year. Two numbers going on the same during special teams, giving Utah a first down. Missing the game-winning field goal versus Arkansas. 4th and 17 versus Missouri. And then you go further. This game means something to the people in Gainesville. I don't know if you guys ever driven through Gainesville. There's nothing there outside of Florida football. There is nothing there. You take I-275 from Tampa through Ocala into Gainesville. There was nothing that entire way through except when you pass through Disney World. Nothing. This is all they got. And it means something. I've been going to Gator games since I was 4 years old. It means something to me and my dad. We're going to this game. It's the first time I'll be back in the swamp in almost 3 years. It means something to every single fan there. There's going to be 93,000 people there. And if the Billy Napier feels that, the team feels that. Graham Mertz has talked about it. With that being said, going into the actual game, Miami has a huge advantage on the defensive line. I think Miami's defensive line is going to be the best D line Florida faces all year. Florida's left side of the offensive line is one of the best sides of an offensive line in the country. Their right side, there are two major holes, and there's not even a starter there. The depth chart comes out sometime tonight. People are going to be looking to see who's starting at right guard and right tackle because literally nobody knows. Miami's offensive line is one of the best units in the ACC and one of the best units in the country. Florida has distinct advantages in the secondary and at skill positions, in my opinion. Miami got the Oregon State running back, Martinez, coming in. Florida's got 5 running backs that can go play, like at a very high level. They lose ETN, and the reason why Florida fans weren't freaking out about losing ETN is because Florida's got 5 running backs that can go play. Everything in me, the logical person in me is saying that Miami's going to win, because it doesn't matter what you have on the skill positions if Miami dominates up front, which I think there's a real possibility that they do because I have that many questions on the right side of Florida's offensive line. But on the first third down of the game, when Cam Ward faces a 3rd and 8, and it literally feels like that you're standing next to a jet engine because it is so loud. None of you guys have, and it pains me to like, none of you guys have experienced an environment like this. There is nothing like the swamp in a game. It's going to be hot. It's going to be fields like 110 on that field. I don't know who's thought 3:30 in August was a good idea to play a football game in Gainesville, but it's going to feel like you're standing next to a jet engine as Cam Ward tries to snap the ball. So I think as a Gator fan in me, it is a crime to pick Miami. So I'm going to pick Florida. But there are major question marks for me on the front seven or the defensive line for Florida. I don't think they have someone that can win one-on-one. At least no one that's proven. There's a TJ Searcy's a guy I'm looking at this year to go potentially be that guy. Princely Umanale, the guy that transferred to Ole Miss, he was the only guy that won one-on-one consistently. Everyone else, was just kind of there. And Florida's defense last year was so incredibly bad. So everything logically, Miami's going to win, but I think home field is a real thing. And I do think Florida will prevail. Plus, I think Graham Mertz is so slept on. Like I don't get all this hate. Like Graham Mertz was a 20-2. You just love DJ Lagway because you play Florida in NCAA. But I think Graham Mertz slept on. Look out, Trey Wilson is going to be everywhere in this game. It wouldn't surprise me if he got 10 touches, 10 plus touches in this game. Number 3, Trey Wilson. So sorry that went long. I'm ready for this game. I've been ready for this game since Florida lost to Colorado in the NCAA tournament on some BS in that. But like you look at all of our Gator Twitter, like they're ready. It means something. So we'll see. I'll tell you what, there's not going to be a more hostile environment, just not just because of the sound of the building, because whoever loses this game, especially if Florida loses this game, there's going to be a lot of chirping from the fan base. But anyway, now to a lot less cool game. We can make some time here. Give me Boise State.
Yeah, give me the Broncos.
Yes. And I'm gonna be honest here. I'm gonna take North Texas. All right.
Yeah.
The only reason why I played a couple dynasties in the new video game. I know some people might not know, but there's a new video game that came out. It is college football, and North Texas is incredibly good in that game for no reason. So I'm taking North Texas.
One of our first in-person podcasts we ever filmed, Tanner and I started talking about South Alabama and how athletic they were.
I remember.
So we're gonna run it back, and I'm going with the Jaguars here. And I'm gonna leave it up to Johnny to make a decision here.
I agree. I'm also going with South Alabama, even though North Texas does have some cool jerseys. I believe they just came out with new ones. I could be mistaken. I think I saw that on social media. But just because James brought that up, I'm going with South Alabama because that unlocked a distinct memory. Just like I gave my spiel about Florida, me and Tanner are going to go first for this game. This game for Notre Dame doesn't quite have the ramifications. I think that the Florida-Miami game does it for Florida. But talk about another hostile environment. I mean, there's going to be 103,000 people in Aggieland ready for this game. And it it goes against everything that I've been preaching if I pick Notre Dame, because I think a new quarterback going on the road, first game of their career with Notre Dame, is a big deal. But like I'm a believer when I see it with A&M, and I believe in Mike Elko, and I think he's going to get A&M rolling there eventually, because he's the guy that's going to lock in all that talent. I don't think it happens in week one. I think Notre Dame goes into Aggieland and picks up a massive signature win, because Riley Leonard does some special things for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think Texas A&M again. They're my sleeper in SEC. I think they're going to do some damage, but I just it's too early. It's week one. It's the first game. It's right from the jump. National television. Everybody's going to be watching this game. It's really the only game in that window that's like worth watching, and it is a big one. So everybody's going to be tuned in. Whole country watching. I think Notre Dame. They've just been there more as a program recently. A lot more players that have been in that spot. I do think Riley Leonard's going to struggle. I like him a lot. Good quarterback. But you're talking like ACC, and now he's transitioning to first game at Notre Dame, Kyle Field. I'm not expecting a bunch out of Riley Leonard, the Notre Dame quarterback, but I think Notre Dame's going to win this game defensively, special teams. I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit. Interested to see how Texas A&M D-line plays. They did get the Big Ten sacks leader in the portal, one of the number one players in the whole entire portal. Yes, he left Purdue, and he's at A&M now, and he's a stud. So I'm excited to watch him play. I'm still disappointed he left, but going to be intrigued to see how he stacks up against Notre Dame. But I'm taking the Fighting Irish ultimately on the road.
There we go. I like that. That's love. That's love coming out of you too. This game, I mean, it's. I'm nervous for it. Uh, I'm super happy that they have a game like this on the schedule.
Yeah.
You know, like the last season, it was like, okay, what game am I going to be looking forward to? Again, I just mentioned back when Clemson was really dominant, it was like, okay, amazing. They're gonna do a home and home series. This is a game where it's like, shout out to Notre Dame for going there week one and saying, we're just gonna put our best against your best in your hostile environment, and we're gonna see what happens. So for my spiel here, Marcus Freeman, I think, is going to be hopefully a hell of a coach at Notre Dame. I love his defensive mind. I thought he was an amazing defensive coordinator that kind of just jumped into that role as a head coach. Obviously, it's not like he's been bad. As at Notre Dame, we want to obviously you say you want to fight for national championships. That hasn't happened since I've been alive. Truthfully, it's a historic program, but obviously in the last 22 years of me being alive, it's not like we're going out there and beating everybody. So my issue with Notre Dame over the years that I've really paid attention to college football is we haven't had a quarterback wide receiver relationship. And it's a huge mistake. When you look at the Alabama teams, they've always had number one quarterbacks throwing to number one wide receivers, and Notre Dame just never had that. What has Notre Dame always had? They've always had a good defense, they've always had a good offensive line, and they've always had a fast running back or a big running back that can find those holes because the offensive line is so good. Okay. Now you have an issue, right? Possibly not an issue though, because Riley Leonard was not very good last season. That a lot of people I think are overhyping him. I thought he was not great. He looked good against Notre Dame, right? Got hurt, but he wasn't statistically amazing last season at Duke. But I think he's a huge upgrade. And I think that just shows that Notre Dame wasn't very strong at the quarterback position last season. Jaden Thomas is a guy, wide receiver one for Notre Dame. He's big, he's athletic. I think that relationship between Leonard and Thomas is going to be one to watch out for. You lose your back, you lose Joe Alt, but this offensive line at Notre Dame, as I just mentioned, has so much experience, and it's always a staple of Notre Dame football. They had a freshman this season that was going to start on the line. Went to Allman High School out in Rock Island, Illinois. Tore his ACL, I believe, in the offseason or in the preseason. So that's next guy up. That's the Notre Dame offensive line. They're just going to grab another 6'6", 330-pound guy that they got on the roster. So we hit the portal pretty good. The Duke defensive end, RJ, I think Oben is his name. He came over with Riley Leonard. The defense is going to be solid. Benjamin Morrison's one of the best corners in the country. He's going to be a first rounder. I think for me, this game comes down to, can Riley Leonard be the quarterback that Notre Dame needs him to be in order to put themselves in a good playoff push? And I think that's going to be the biggest question. I'm confident in him. I'm confident in our defense to hold Texas A&M, but Riley Leonard's going to have to be on his game and maybe a little special to be able to go into this hostile environment and win this game. I'm going to pick Notre Dame. Why not? They're my team. I think they are the better team. But Riley Leonard's going to have all eyes on Riley Leonard to see if he's ready for this moment, because these are the types of games you got to win if you want to win a national championship. And especially with the 12 team playoff, this is going to happen. Your first matchup is going to be a similar game to this. Hopefully it's at home and whatnot, but it is what it is. So shout out to Notre Dame. That was my first spiel of the season of the year on Notre Dame. I think they get it done at A&M, but Riley Leonard, I hope and pray that this is the season that Notre Dame finally solidifies themselves and says, okay, we have a quarterback now. Let's go play ball. And I hope I'm right. So I guess we'll see. But I guess 3 for 3 on the Fighting Irish here.
There it is. Tanner, I think you said the most important thing. I think Riley Leonard going to A&M and playing at Cal Field, he hasn't experienced anything like that. I mean, Cal Field, when it's rocking, man, that place goes. A lot of obviously very tough environment there. It's hard to fathom like over 100,000 people like in one place, because it's a college thing. It's not a pro thing. I think the biggest pro stadium is MetLife in New York. And I think it's like 70 something. I could be mistaken, but
I think you're right.
I mean, you look at Tennessee. Tennessee's over 100. Penn State's over 100. Ohio State's over 100. Alabama's over 100. Florida's going to have 93,000 there. It's just, it's one of the best things about college football. But we'll head to this last matchup. I'm not going to.
Why is this the last match?
I mean, because
it's at 9:30.
First of all, I don't know. So let's just pick Arizona State, because I want to talk about LSU USC. That's the other big matchup. So let's just pick Arizona State.
Yeah,
and then
cool.
Tanner and I were good at these last year. What do you think, T? Total points.
Clemson, Georgia. I think the spread's like 13.5. They're saying Georgia's going to win by like 14. I'm gonna go with 31-17 Georgia.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say like 34-20, 31-20. So let's do.
It's definitely gonna be 42-21. By the way, you guys are just so wrong, but it's fine.
Because
so we're gonna do like 48, 49 points.
Yeah, I'm bad at math. I'm a comm major.
I'm gonna hammer the over. Can I take
40,
your?
I think
giving me odds.
I think 50.
50.
Yeah.
Let's go with 50. Is 50 cool?
You guys gonna give me any live odds here? I'll take the over.
I wonder what the live odds are. I'm not gonna go.
I'm not sure what the odds are on the over under. I do know the spread of
that.
game.
We can talk about this USC LSU game. Let's do it.
So I think so. USC LSU plays Sunday in Vegas, which is pretty cool. As here we go again. Another guys, we did really good last year with the picks. So I was proud of us. We did really good. But like I was saying, they play in Vegas. It's gonna be a super cool atmosphere there. There's been all the talk I've heard on LSU is either that they're going to be overrated and bad, or they're going to win the SEC and be a top 4 seed in the playoff. Haven't really heard anything in the middle. Same thing with USC. I mean, I haven't really heard too many things redeeming about USC. They lost their quarterback, but the guy they bring in had an incredible game in the bowl game. And that one game in the bowl game, everyone's like, okay, they're not going to go get anyone in the transfer portal because of one game. But I trust Lincoln Riley getting good play out of a quarterback more than any coach getting good play out of quarterback in the country. LSU has major questions on their defense. And if you were talking to me 10 years ago, I would never utter that sentence, because LSU was never bad defensively. It's tough, this game, but I'm going to go with LSU because they completely cleaned house staff-wise defensively, and they can't possibly be as bad as they were last year defensively. We talked about it in the SC preview. It does concern me that they're going to have to replace 2 first-round picks at wide receiver. That's concerning for any team, but I do think they're going to run the ball a little bit better. So this is the game I have the least amount of feel on, but my guts tell me to go with LSU, so I'm gonna go with LSU.
Yeah, I want to know, obviously, with how these college schedules work. They plan these games years in advance or whatever for the most part. I want to know when this game was scheduled, because I bet you they didn't think they'd be playing in the Big Ten when this game was scheduled. Because
you're 100% right.
I want to know, because I haven't really looked at USC's Big Ten schedule per se because I think they're going to be middle of pack, and so I didn't really care and look. But I tell you what, I know two of USC's non-con games now are Notre Dame and LSU, and now they have a Big Ten schedule.
Yeah.
This was not planned. They were planning on playing in the Pac-12
Yep.
and having Notre Dame and LSU to strengthen their schedule. And now look at this. They're going to have a few cupcakes now instead. So I think LSU, I'm with Johnny. Like I'm gonna pick it's like a no doubt for me that I'm gonna pick LSU, but it's not because I think LSU is unbelievable. I'm just bought more in on LSU and what they got going because I think the transition for USC is going to be more difficult. But at the same time, I saw a video today. I love USC social media when they come out and they walk across the road and whatever. And did you guys see the video of the offensive lineman they have that's like 6'7",
Big
330
guys,
pounds?
big dude.
I mean, he looks like a giant, and he is, but he's one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen.
Talks about he's a get off the bus guy, first guy off the bus, setting the tone.
Exactly. So I like LSU. I like the neutral site. I think it's a really cool game. One that I don't really know why it wasn't on the Pick'em. The Pick'em is kind of weird sometimes.
I think they only did Saturday games because they didn't have like
that's true.
Any of the Thursday games either. There's some fun Thursday games.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I look at that and I think I really look at USC schedule and I really know, okay, they had Notre Dame, LSU to strengthen that schedule. Now they're in the Big Ten. They maybe didn't need them. So it could really hurt them, the scheduling, whatever you want to call it. But I like LSU in this matchup in week 1.
Yeah, speaking on USC set schedule real quick, I know that Penn State goes to USC this year, and I think USC goes to Michigan, but they avoid Ohio State.
Yes, yeah.
I would agree. I don't really have a really good feel on this game. When you look at these two programs, you have the last two Heisman Trophy winners. You have the number 1 and number 2 overall pick in last year's NFL draft. So now it's like they're gone. What's next? What's next for each program? I trust LSU more. They need this game, I think, more than USC, if that makes sense. Brian Kelly's in year 3 now. I think Lincoln Riley's in year 3 now. But there's a little bit more pressure at LSU. There's a little bit more pressure at LSU. SEC, you have a tougher schedule than what USC is going to have. I think they're going to be better in the trenches. I think they're going to be way better defensively than USC, and I think LSU has them outmatched. I'm definitely going to be rocking with LSU in this game. I agree, James. I'm not too high on USC in this transition to the Big Ten, at least just not quite yet with USC.
I'll tell you what, if Lincoln Riley's a subpar year this year, people are going to start calling for his head, man. I mean, he had a good year 1. Last year wasn't anything, but we talked about LSU's defense being bad, and USC's defense was like historically bad last year.
Horrendous.
They were both terrible. How fun would this game have been a year ago, by the way?
Yeah.
Daniel's kid.
80-78
yeah.
Final score.
Oh, by the way, does FSU plays Boston College on Monday? Does FSU lose again?
No way, dude. No way. I was looking at that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Labor Day game. That is pretty cool. Like, but like Florida State, they're not going to be able to lock in on a Saturday game. I mean, they're in Ireland. Next thing you know, they're playing on a Monday night, and it's like, what's going on?
I feel really, really bad for Boston College and the fact that they opened their season in that scenario.
Yeah.
Playing a very pissed off Florida State.
Yeah.
Tough. I agree. But we're going to cut it there, guys. It was good, even if it's just a short episode, just to get this out, kind of get back to 2 a week. Again, thank you to all the new subscribers. We've talked about it. We're close to the point where we can start profiting off this, which would be cool. Even though it wouldn't be a lot of money, it just kind of shows the growth that we've done. So Tanner and I really talked about this. Like, it's easy kind of getting that first 100, but from there on, it's really tough. And I'm proud of us for being consistent. We're almost at 7,000 likes on TikTok, which is pretty cool. And obviously, we're almost at 200,000 views on YouTube, which is also really cool. But again, if you are new, please subscribe. If my parents sent this to you, I'm sorry they're being annoying and sending it to everyone. But thank you anyway for watching and making it all the way to the end. But yeah, leave it a like, subscribe, send it to someone, and we'll see you guys next time after a freaking electric weekend of college football.
Let's go. Johnny, have fun.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.